like stars, cause no matter how far, when it's dark outside, they will be your light. We'd play Halo and we'd lay low in our basement until the sun began to rise. We would go to school but not learn too much, cause it's hard to read when you've got tired eyes. Months go by, the time it flies, past the days that we drank Kool-Aid in the summertime. Years go by, the time it flies, past the days that we drank Kool-Aid in the summertime.
The biggest thing that was like
Hi, Chad.
annoying for me, hey chat. The biggest thing that was annoying for me in regards to the housing stuff, and we'll get into it, but it's like, yeah, we recognize that your schools want approvals. Have them call first. Like, okay, I don't know what you're getting, where you're getting with that, but all right. I hope you enjoy getting a ton of calls from a bunch of teams, because that's what's inherently going to happen.
Yeah.
But
I just
what do we
don't like.
know?
I just don't like the turnaround between like district champs and the deadline, because it's like from April 5th to the 9th. I mean,
Well, did you see
I mean,
that,
like what 166 did it back in 22, where we qualified like on Saturday of district champs, and then we were in the air 48 hours later. But we went from having no plan to having a plan, which sucked.
Well,
But,
did you
like,
see that you're not like officially registered for the event until you make a booking through Conference Direct?
Yep.
Psychotic.
I mean, the good thing is scheduling all those logistics and travel plans in 48 hours is not stressful or
No, the only benefit is that it'll be done in 48 hours because it has to be.
Like I can recall helping our lead mentors with trying to find flights when we got the call in 2022, and for like 15 to 20 minutes, the team was about to be split up on 8 different flights. I was going to be taking a red eye essentially Monday night with my drivers on Spirit direct from Boston to Houston, and I was just like, absolutely not. And I was like, what about hotel? They're like, you're going to have to figure that one out.
The other thing we're getting burned by,
no.
and I'm sure everybody's getting burned by right now, is like dealing with Easter pricing for flights. Like, shit's expensive.
My God, my week 5 Vegas flight is right during spring break, and oh my God, is it a lot of money?
Viva Las Vegas!
Hey Nick, I'm just writing a little more in your intro, just an FYI. So.
Okay, no problem.
Nick, you were talking about curses. I feel similarly. I was on midnight last year and the last couple of years, and the one team we played against and lost to 3 years in a row in district championships was Petty.
That's brutal.
So that was an interesting first meeting with everybody.
That is funny. I was going to say, I don't remember seeing you on Petty last year, because Petty beat us in Hopper Elims. And I didn't think you were on Petty last year. That makes sense now.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all, I think we're about ready to start, so let me move stuff over. I'm going to go mute in a second.
I am good. Hey, Fun Nation. Tonight on FRC Roundup, we will be taking a look at 3 topics that cover everything from an official Week 0 discussion of what we learned to speculation on how the meta of this game could evolve to an update from FIRST regarding championship housing. All of this and more coming up on this episode of FRC Roundup.
This video on fun is brought to you by our viewers, supporters, members, and also in partnership with the following. AndyMark provides superior service with the reliability that teams expect. Check out their sport gearbox and ratchet sport options to their tried and true compliant wheels used by teams all over the world. From mechanical and electrical products to tools and hardware, head on over to andymark.com for your one-stop shop of high quality and affordable solutions. Osh Cut is a premier metal cutting service for first teams. No minimum order, options for same-day turnaround, guaranteed lead times, and instant online quotes. Osh Cut is offering first teams 50% off any future order up to $200 when you scan the QR code or go to funroboticsnetwork.com/OSHCUT. Just upload a 3D model or flat pattern to get started.
Welcome to the show. If you have not caught our show previously, FRC Roundup is where we take a look at important topics currently happening in FRC, highlight some discussion points about events that may have happened, strategy, or really anything that correlates with FRC. If you, the fun community, think that it's a topic that we should discuss on FRC Roundup, please feel free to ping me on the Fun Discord. I'll be more than happy to take a look at it. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Nick Mathis, and I'm currently in the First and Michigan region and a mentor on Team 33, the Killer Bees.
And I'm Connor McBride, mentor for Team 166 Chop Shop and an MC and game announcer in the New England District. Our guest tonight is Jeff Bunca. Jeff is a longtime firster. He started his journey all the way back in 2003. He is a game announcer in the First Mid-Atlantic District, fun correspondent, and drive coach for 5895 Petty Robotics. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. I believe this is your second time on the show, so glad to have you back. But let's go ahead and jump right into topic 1. Obviously, this past weekend, the official Week 0 by FIRST was hosted. A lot of good things, I think, good and bad that was learned from the event, as they always do. I think it's important that FIRST essentially, gets the field out there before an official competition, even though they call it the official Week 0. But get it out there for an official competition, work through some kinks, and figure out what is needed to get prepped for Week 1 coming up here shortly. So, Connor, your team and your school had the privilege of hosting the official Week 0 event this past weekend. So I'd like to throw it to you, kind of give your overall thoughts of Week 0, what you thought about the initial thoughts of the game. I don't want to dive too much into the strategy because we're going to cover that in the next topic, but just overall thoughts on the event.
Yeah, well, I'll start off with a negative right now, is that Tyler's showing a video where we have a coral stuck in our robot for the entire match. So thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. No, this the Week 0 was a ton of fun. First initial thought, first started setting up the field Friday at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and the field was done by around 8:30. So to be fair, there was a decent sized crew putting the field together. A lot of FIRST staff. There were some of our local New England volunteers that do a lot of like field build and tear down. But this field went together relatively quickly, which is cool. What I love about the field and like the pictures and all the videos that we've seen of the field so far, are like the field looks pretty. It does not do it justice. That field is gorgeous. And the nice, touch to the purple on the reef just kind of like pops out. So like if you're very kind of like OCD or like very like attention to detail and that kind of thing, like you're really going to like this field.
Well, if they cared about it that much, they should put the correct color in the drawing. Because
come on,
it's definitely not the bubblegum pink that it actually is in the drawing.
Who cares? Honestly, who cares? I mean, as long if you're like purposely like tracking the color of the reef, then sure, I get it. But like, track the April tags.
You're good.
And that's my 2 cents. Who cares? I think so. There was a Chief Delphi thread that was posted a couple, like basically, I think it was the day of or like after the event was over, of like lessons learned from week 0. Aaron Stidham from 1768 really hit the nail on the head on a lot of this stuff, into that like this game looks easy, but oh man, this is actually a really hard game. So we were not running any kind of vision for week 0. That was all driver line of sight and everything. And you get like behind the glass, you can get a very good idea as to lining up and everything. We didn't have a whole lot of practice, but oh boy, did we have a lot of missed shots when we're trying to go score level 2 and level 3 on the reef. So I think a lot of events will be, in seeding and stuff, will be won and lost based off of, can you actually do you have vision? Can you go and line up accurately and score this? It's going to be a very fast paced thing. And also just really being able to go and get game pieces from the feeding station. That'll kind of dive into the next topic. I don't want to go too much into that, but no, Aaron really just nails it here.
Yeah, I think one thing that, and admittedly, I haven't got to catch too much of week 0 in general. I got to watch a couple matches today, spending some time reviewing for the show. But one thing that I was pretty surprised with, I guess not surprised with, but I think is going to take some time to evolve, is this reminds me a lot of auto planning compared to, say, something like, I'm trying to think of when the last time, like 2022 maybe, where there's a lot of coordination. I know 2022 was more role-based, but, as we further develop here, continuing through the weeks of competition, coordinating auto routines using the loading station is going to be rather complicated. I think we all kind of expected that, but it's going to really develop into whose auto is really the most adaptable. And I think April tags kind of help that situation, but I'd be curious to see where that develops. And we can talk more about that when we get into the meta. But that was one of my big observations. The other big observation that I had was not too many people messed with the algae in the reef. I would have expected those to be like, hey, get those out of there, so that way it's not affecting your scoring. And people kind of did it in waves, which I thought was interesting. But Jeff, I don't know how much of the week 0 you got to catch, but for the the content that you were able to look into, what were your overall thoughts of the event?
Yeah, I like it. I agree with Connor. I think it's a cool looking field. My biggest thing, I try to kind of take week 0 with a grain of salt, because I know a fair percentage of the folks, at least from what I've heard, are, I've never competed at week 0, but a lot of the folks that I've talked to who go to week 0s are really kind of just using it as like a proper, scrimmage practice test type of environment. I know, I'm sure as you get deeper into the elims and stuff, folks are trying to actually win matches and stuff like that. But
right.
I wonder, if we're going to even see more of a strategic evolution as we get, part of the way through week 1, just because people are actually playing when it counts now. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I'm very curious to see, one thing that, another thing that I caught, the team update came out today. The rules in which they were this past weekend for climbing really inherited a lot of issues. I know, Connor, we talked a little bit off stream about this, but the overall chain rules were pretty rough. And they released one about 2 weeks ago saying, hey, if you touch the anchor, it doesn't eliminate the alliance from an RP. It just eliminates that robot from barge points, or whatever the term they use. But you can still count for a park. I was like, okay, that's a pretty good update. I think that was the intention of the rule. You don't want to, because that's going to get to the point where it's like you're going to have super high level competitive teams that are like, I want to see your climb on the practice field before it goes, we have a match with you, which shouldn't happen. I don't believe in that at all. But the update today pretty much says, hey, you can hit the chain as long as you're not resting on it or supporting your robot by it. It's legal. I think item E is really the big one that calls out in parentheses saying something along the lines of, there may be transferred or energy transferred while touching it, but as long as it's not resting on it, it's still going to be legal. So I thought that was an interesting point, and I'll be curious to see how that plays into the next week. But yeah, overall, good thoughts. Appreciate the team at first setting it up. It's always interesting to watch, the first wave of matches come through and see how the game will, start and eventually develop throughout the year. So,
I
go ahead, Connor.
I want to add a few more things. I do have to give props to every team that actually was able to get there, because like getting a functional robot like a couple weeks before before events actually start. Oh yeah, we found out that
Shout
there's a
out
new way to climb.
4607.
Yeah, shout out.
Yeah.
Just being able to get a robot on the field and moving is just a milestone above everyone else. Like there, if you looked at like the wait
We sure
list,
as hell wouldn't have been ready.
if you looked at the wait
I
list
commend a lot of teams
for the event, like when the initial team list went out, we went through the entire wait list and more. Like there's just teams just were dropping like flies when it gets to once it gets to the event, because it's like teams aren't ready. But granted, a lot of teams are signing up in the hopes that they are actually ready.
Mhm.
One thing that I noticed after the event, which is kind of funny, and this is why First host these week 0 events, so that they can run literally everything through its paces. The Blue Alliance wasn't pulling rankings, so I went to the FRC events page just to see, because we finished second. I'm like, all right, what could have been? How far were we away from seeding first? And I looked at, so we went 3-0 in our qual matches, but we had a ranking score average of 2.67. That doesn't make sense. When you win a match, you get 3 ranking points. Fun fact: the AP everything, it was awarding ranking points to the teams, but when it came time to the actual rankings, it was still awarding only 2 RP for the win, not 3.
Well, good catch.
So if you look through this, there are teams that seeded higher than they shouldn't have, and teams that seeded lower than when they should have seeded higher. It's kind of fun. It's a nice breakdown.
I'm curious, going back to that image of the reef climbed robot, how sketchy was that removing that? Because when I saw that image, I was that actually not just looking at it.
Yeah, so that's actually not at our event.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
Becker week 0. So yeah, they just have their own official field elements. So we saw that, and I was talking with some First staff, and they're like, yeah, we like to make sure that this was as strong as possible. There were some people that actually don't do this at home or at your field, but like climbed on top of the level 3 branch and grabbed onto level 4 and would just stand on it and shaking it like it doesn't break. So
well, that's good to hear.
This is a robust field, by the way.
So one thing, I don't want to spend too much more time on this stuff, but I did this to bring up a good point when you brought the reef up. How much play was actually in the reef polls? I've been hearing some, context that there's quite a bit of play, I would say, in the polls, like a back and forth, like a tolerance almost, and they move quite a bit more than people were expecting. Did you guys have any experience with that, or?
I didn't, to be honest. I mean, we might have seen something if we were running any form of vision, but like everything seemed pretty rigid to me.
Sure.
This feels like a very well built field. Like hats off to First on this one. Seriously.
All right. Very good. Well, before we go ahead and jump into the next topic, let's bring on Tyler to hear from our friends at AndyMark and start our first giveaway.
So real quick, before we do that, I want to pose to you guys what the poll question is right now in chat and get your opinion. So after watching week 0, how do you feel? Are you more positive about REEFSCAPE, less positive, or kind of about the same?
I'm about the same. It's going to be a pretty boring game to watch.
Well, I'm about the same.
I'm excited.
I'm always excited, but I think it's going to be pretty boring compared to like the past 2 years. I thought the past 2 years was really entertaining because of the cross field stuff. Anytime it's like in one-sided field game, it'll be boring to start. But teaser, we'll talk about the next topic. I think defense is going to be a major pain in the ass in this game.
Yes.
So.
All right, so before we get into that, let's go ahead and thank our friends at AndyMark. We also do have a giveaway starting from AndyMark in just a moment as well, too, so stay tuned to that. But if you are watching this in February, AndyMark has their 20% off sale going on right now. Use code WaterGame20 at checkout for savings. You can go right to andymark.com, click on the banner, and get ready to stock up. Also, these are your final days to take advantage of the AndyMark Advantage shipping. So if you are looking at doing that, that ends February 23rd, where you can get 2-day shipping for the price of ground if you're in the continental U.S. This really makes AndyMark your one-stop shop for your competition needs. And of course, AndyMark employees are amazingly knowledgeable. Many of them are First alumni, and they're here to help. So take advantage of their 20% off sale and go to andymark.com to get started. As mentioned, we do have a giveaway from our friends at AndyMark as well, too. So we'll bring that up here. in just a moment. It's going to be for the programmable servos. So this is the torque servo. Keyword is GOAT. That's what we were given for it. This is the adjustable metal geared servos that are perfect for use in robot mechanisms. So they can be programmed to include angular limit as well as continuous rotation mode, making them highly adaptable. So if you're interested in this, type in GOAT right now. Don't forget, if you are a YouTube subscriber, you do get 3 times chance to win. So make sure you're subscribing. It's absolutely free to do. A big shout out to, by the way, for those who are stepping up through YouTube Join. So it's Crazy Fish 784 and Epiphany Lockman. Thank you for your support. You do get some early access and ad-free content. Good luck, everybody.
Woohoo! Thanks, everybody, and thanks again from our friends at Andy Mark. Jumping into topic 2, we kind of hinted at it, but we saw a little bit at week 0. We're going to see a ton early next week, starting with our Israel friends. I think they start in week 1. I could be wrong, but early next week, and then we'll break into the official wave of week 1 next weekend. God, I can't believe that's next weekend already. And we'll get to see where the meta starts and how it progresses. Connor, I think we talked a little bit offline, but similar to last year where we had, the reoccurring topic of the meta discussion, we'll break down each week on how REEFSCAPE continues to evolve throughout the week. So be sure to take a look at that in future shows that we have throughout the year. But I thought one thing, and I'll kind of give my initial reactions and then I'll come to you, Jeff. But I think the game, I kind of hinted at it earlier, but I think the game in general is going to be a bit on the boring side. I don't mean to be a buzzkill, but I think it'll be more of a boring game to start. Connor, you hinted at it earlier. This is arguably the hardest game that we have ever had. The amount of accuracy that is needed to place, a coral onto the reef. You have about 1.5 inch tolerance either way, right? 1.25 inch pipe, 4 inch, 1.5 inch pipe, 4 inch inner diameter. It's going to be, it is one of the more difficult things that, we've ever had to do. And I think, that's not going to be an easy feat, and it's going to take some time to get used to. I think the reef, unless you build the pipes, behaves incredibly differently. If you only have a PVC reef at home and you're not getting on the real reef pipes until week 1, it's going to be a pretty rude awakening for how differently they behave. So I'll be curious to see how that affects, but I think it'll be pretty slow. It'll start off, a lot of coral being dropped. Hopefully a lot of teams are planning on protecting the inside of the robot. The coral is one of the most destructive game pieces that we've ever had. And it does break electronics. So if your electronics are not covered, highly recommend you get a panel over that before you compete. I guess before we jump into how we evolve, I'll go to Jeff. What do you think the game is going to start at week 1? And then I'll get Connor spinning, and then we'll jump to where do we see it, getting into week 5, district champs, and then eventually at the championship.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Super straightforward. I think everybody's just going to be kind of pushing forward to try and score as quickly as they can. Obviously, at any event, you start to see evolution of game, strategy efficacy. And I think you'll start to see folks trying to fall into specific roles, albeit one of them is probably going to be defense, especially in the earlier rounds or earlier events for sure.
Yeah. Connor, what about you?
Yeah, so I can kind of at least I'll dive into what we were running for my alliance's strategy. So It was us 4909, 1073. So all 3 robots, we were planning on running triple offense, and essentially what it is that, or as soon as the other alliance would send a robot down to our end, immediately take 1073, go put them on defense. And that last part didn't add until after, I think it was our first match or second playoff match. I can't remember, where a robot came down to go play defense. And then, and all they did was just sit right in front of one of those loading zones and just do like the little like shuffle kind of thing. And it completely shuts a zone down. And now you're having 3 robots that are trying to go feed from the other one.
Does it turn into just strictly a congestion thing?
Oh, it's terrible. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. And especially with that not being a protected zone, that is the most diabolical way to shut down an alliance, is just take the robot. I mean, it could be like you could plan out like your alliance for champs, for example, to have 3 high scoring robots, but have one of them that knows how to go down and just be a brick off in the corner. Like, this is, yeah. I mean, even making 2 robots share the same loading zone is not, it's not great. Learn to share. If you have like a wide funnel and that's how you're going, and you're also with another team that has a wide funnel, that's definitely try and use that wide acquisition zone. If you're able to like park yourself like a few inches away from like being directly up against the wall and be able to have the human player just send that sucker right down the chute and hopefully get it into the robot, that's probably the best bet. But it's like, get in there, get out. And that's probably the best way to, like, I don't think you're going to have like full man-to-man defense. I think what you'll have is just having that robot sit there and just be a nuisance and just completely shut off a zone.
Sure. So now that we got to see, a bit of week 0 and where we think the game might start to see, one of the things that I guess the 2 big things for me that are going to really make or break the game and the further development of it. One, auto planning. It's going to be super imperative as we get through quals and get through to your elims matches that the coordination of alliance members in terms of auto is going to be incredibly important. I did not see, maybe it's just because I haven't watched a ton of matches, but I did not see the lollipops utilized a ton in auto. But I think that's an interesting point, because that's either A, you are, one robot's got one of the stations and then 2 are sharing the other, or it's one's got a station, and one's using the lollipops. So I think that'll be super interesting to see how that plays out, and where does that move the auto needle. I think the other thing too that you brought up, Connor, is I think that the end game is really going to be, or not the end game, the defense aspect of it is going to be like damn near important once you get to district champs and champs. I'll be curious to see how much it actually influences it, but I think the overall strategy, like you run into a sheer congestion problem even with 3 robots trying to split 2 stations. Your coordination has to be incredibly good. And I think that it could get to that point as you work through, working with your alliance partners and gaining each other's trust and figuring out everybody's tendencies. But if you're running 3 robots and one even floats the idea of coming down, you just completely run out of space. You're talking about a 6-foot sprint that you're now putting 3 robots in, and possibly a 4th if a defensive one comes down. So I'm very curious to see how defense plays a role in it. I think, to Connor's point, the unprotected loading zones are an interesting task. And, now you're talking about 2 robots sharing a station while one's parked at the other. You're still going to have congestion problems because you inherently won't be completely off cycle. That's the goal is, while one's scoring, I'm grabbing, and when I'm scoring, I'm loading. So I think that'll be curious to see how that develops. And it gives similar vibes to 23 when you were trying to share the substation and trying to get that pathing worked out. It won't be that bad because you're not doing full field cycles and not flying across the field full throttle and slamming into each other if you don't get out of each other's way. But I think the sharing of zones will be very, very important that it was at that point. But Connor, what do you think the game's going to evolve into as we, jump through to district champs and the championship?
Yeah. So I think like that end result is going to be, you have 2 robots that are running autos to the coral stations, scoring level 4 coral. Maybe you have that other robot picking up de-algaing the reef and maybe going to go score that into the processor. Those are 3 high level tasks that can be all independently done in 3 separate zones of the field without having any ability to be able to run into each other.
So Jeff, I want to ask you a leading question. We didn't see a ton of teams working with algae in general this past weekend, in my opinion. A lot of it was just left in the reef. Do you think that algae in the barge via the robot is going to be the difference maker at high levels of play.
Yeah, I do. I look at, basically the way I look at this game is the Reef is a very fancy, well-colored version of the grid from Charged Up.
Yep.
And I look at the Algae as the difference maker between the two alliances because there's a more finite amount of game pieces on the field that apply there. So I draw a lot of parallels between that and the cans from 2015. So going back to your point about defense, I'm not going to say week 0 is a perfect representation of the full competition experience, but I often wonder if there's a world where, you find out that, a defender is locking up one of your loading stations, and that's forcing everybody to load from one side versus the other. So you might be able to repurpose one of your robots to scoring Algae so that now you only have 2 in the loading station at once. And at the same time, I would send my defender downstream or downfield rather to play defense. And then if it's later in the season, maybe even tell them, use that Algae intake to pick up one of the opponent's Algae. Even just hold on to it. It might be the difference maker down, later in the match. So yeah, I think Algae is going to be relatively irrelevant earlier in the season, but it's going to become super important.
It's going to be just like the can race and recycle rush.
Yeah, like you brought up a good point, Jeff. Like Epiphany puts in chat Einstein Algae races with a sarcasm. I entirely think that that's going to happen. Like we're going to get to a point where it's not going to be defense. It's going to be how fast can you get down to steal the Algae off the team's lollipops that they didn't use an auto, or hey, we're in the middle of a match and we're going to score on the backside of the Reef, and the opposing alliance goes to throw in an Algae and they pop it over the barge. I'm stopping immediately what I'm doing to go grab that piece of Algae and take away those points, right? Because that's to your point, Jeff, the Algae is a finite amount. What's on the field is what's on the field. And it's going to get to a point where, okay, if we're a piece, if we're a coral or 2 off and I can steal 2 or 3 more Algae from the opposing alliance and score them where they can't, I'm netting points at that point. So, albeit they now get the opportunity for their human player to put it in the net, but you're still netting you're netting points if you steal Algae from them. So I think I in general agree with the assessment of what you said of Algae is going to be pretty, not super involved at the beginning, but I think that's what's going to be the big paradigm shift we see as we move to 4 or 5 and district champs. So that's a great point. Anything else to add before we go ahead and move on?
Yeah, one thing that I noted, I did take some time to go throw Algae into the barge. It is a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I'll put that one out there. Oh yeah. So I think adding on to that, I think if you are at that high level of play, if you're able to take that Algae and have your robot go put it up in the barge, I think the point differential is going to be a lot better for you. Because at least for those early on Algae, you'll be able to score it in the processor for 6 points, but then if they get it into the barge, it's worth 4. So a 2-point differential there versus if you just go put it up top. And so,
sure,
I think
that makes sense.
I think you might see less processor scoring as we get to that higher level of play.
One thing I wanted to mention, less to do with Algae and more to do with getting ready for defense. I'm of the opinion that defense is going to become a standard feature in pretty much all of the elimination, matches that we see, even from week 1 on. So I heavily encourage all teams out there who can to train your human players to be able to dynamically feed 3 robots at once. I think that's something a lot of folks might overlook, and that could cause people to, lose a ton of efficiency on top of just being crowded in the loading zone. So,
yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, before we go ahead and jump into our final topic of the night, we will look at our giveaway from AnyMark and a few other messages.
Yeah, once again, we were drawing for the programmable servos from AnyMark. So let's go ahead and get ready for that. Your keyword was GOAT, by the way. The winner is going to be Margaret Strong. Margaret, please go to funroboxnetwork.com and click on the giveaway winners link. That is your opportunity in order to claim that. So make sure, once again, you do that so we can get that out to you. Thanks again to AnyMark for the awesome giveaway. Once again, Margaret Strong, congratulations to you. We're also going to, we'll be starting our next giveaway in just a moment here, but we do want to tell you about some really great news that we have here for teams, especially if you need a quick turnaround laser fabrication service with competition season coming up. We got a great one for you. Osh Cut, who also does 3D tube cutting, is giving all teams 50% off discount up to $200 when you scan the QR code or go to funroboticsnetwork.com/OSHcut. You can also just click the logo on our website as well, too. No minimum orders, options for same-day turnaround, guaranteed lead times, and instant online quotes. So all you got to do, upload a 3D model or flat pattern to get started. And once again, go to funroboticsnetwork.com/OSHcut. That is your opportunity, or not opportunity. Every team gets 50% off up to $200 as well. Speaking about opportunities, though, we do have our next giveaway from our friends at Swift Robotics. This is for the bumper kit, or the Swift bumpers that they have. Holy cow. Do you see what the value is on this, by the way? This is a humongous giveaway that we are doing for this. So these are bumpers that if you're tired, flimsy bumpers, and you can't withstand the rigors of the FRC arena, upgrade to Swift bumpers and experience unparalleled durability and performance. Engineered for ultimate impact absorption and lightning fast installation, Swift bumpers are your secret weapon your robot needs to conquer the competition. Type bumpers in chat right now. You should get everybody in on this. Call your friends, get them in to enter this giveaway right now. Bumpers in chat for these incredible Swift bumpers. And again, thanks again to Swift Robotics for this absolutely incredible giveaway.
They're giving away the bumper set. That's amazing.
I love that.
Those bumpers are awesome. All right. Before we go ahead and jump into the final topic of the night, I will hand it to my co-host Connor to lead us in our beautiful, third time reoccurring, wonderful topic about the situation of championship housing.
Yeah, we've beaten this dead horse enough, but I guess we'll just do it one more time for the sake of all things. Another championship housing update came out the other day. And did our situation get better? No, it's not great. I'll do my rant, and then Jeff, if you have any input, I'll throw it over to you after. I'm just not happy about a lot of these turnarounds on deadlines for getting everything in. So for those that don't know, you have to book your hotels for champs this year through Housing Direct First Portal. I do agree with a couple things in that it does lower the rate of hotel rooms. I know that firsthand, as I booked my hotels through Conference Direct last year as a spectator, and I saved probably about $800 in the whole grand scheme of things, which is saying something considering I spent about $6,000 by myself for the entire week, but I digress. I am not a fan of that. So you do have to have your registration paid, and you have to have your hotels booked through Housing Direct by April 9th. That is exactly 1 week prior to load in for the championship. Sounds great. Not so great for those for those teams in district format. Your district championship is ending on April 5th or April 6th. There are a decent amount of teams that are probably going to qualify that do not have a plan in place, because they are those bubble teams that just, like, it doesn't make sense for them to go and get flights or hotels, and they can take them from teams that ended up not qualifying that had that stuff already booked. That's terrifying, because if you don't have those, your registration and your hotels booked by April 9th, you are dropped from the event. That is a terrible, terrible turnaround time. I understand that champs is the week after, but like, maybe give them till the end of the week. Hell, give them until maybe like Saturday to go and figure that out. Like, a lot of us got jobs, man. We got to be able to feed our families and actually like put in hours. I know what a concept, right? Yeah. Seriously, come on, man. That's just, yeah. And then also on top of that, if any chaperones that you have, whether for like parents or anyone that is not directly listed as a mentor or a student through First Inspires, in this instance is considered a part of the team. So basically have your list ready to go of people who are going to champs before your district championship or that last regional, or because like you're not going to be able to go and like probably add people later on, especially if you want to be able to get everyone in the same hotel.
So real
The
quick, I wanna,
situation sucks, and
Yeah.
I'll,
no, you're good.
I'll-
I want to
no,
because you bring up a good
I'm
point.
pretty much done. My rant's just going in a circle now.
So,
So like,
caveat: I am not going to champs this year, unfortunately. I've got some personal things going on with work and life, so unfortunately, won't be there. And I'm not recommending this, but First has yet to say what the difference will be in access for a team member and a spectator. So, I highly doubt they're going to close the pits off from spectators, because if they want to make it loud and inspire everybody, they're not going to cut off all of the public from getting into the pits. Just putting it out there.
gotcha.
And that will be the end of my rant.
I see where I'm picking up what you're putting down there.
Jeff, we haven't had you on the show before. We've talked about the housing update. How is Petty approaching the inevitable doom that we're going to deal with?
It's a great question. Just doing anything and everything we can do to be prepared. We might have to maybe pass off some reservations or some tickets to teams that might actually need them if we don't, qualify. But, in the event that we do, we want to be as ready as we can be. And that's honestly, like, I agree with everything you said, Connor, and I completely share in your frustrations, but I'm also at the point where I don't think it's going to change, at least this year. So The best thing I can do is at least shout from the rooftops to anybody who will listen that the best thing you can do is prepare yourself as best you can for success here. Do as much pre-planning as you can. Try to come up with contingencies and maybe also just accept the fact that at the end of region championships, you're going to punch your ticket to Worlds and you're probably going to be stressed out. So
yeah, and the one thing, right? No, totally agree. I think the one thing that I will give HQ the benefit of the doubt, that ever since Colin has taken over for Frank, Colin has been amazing about responding to community feedback. So I know that he is only a small piece of the puzzle when it comes to championship, because it's, first holistically and not just FRC, but he has been great about taking in feedback and incorporating teams' feedback into major decisions like this. So I am hoping that, like Jeff said, it's not going to change. We're going to run with it this year. We're going to see what it is. And that First will be super receptive to any and all feedback that teams are willing to provide about how to make the situation better for, teams, and hopefully moving into 2026, what can be a more fluent process. So
can I just say something real quick on this? Is that the one thing I think we're missing out a little bit, though, is who wrote the posts. It's not Colin or anything like that. It's Chris Rake. So if you really want to get to somebody, you need to be reaching out to Chris, right? And Colin works for Chris on things too. I don't actually, Colin might be able to hear all day and stuff. I don't really know if he has any decision-making power in what this is. This is, to me,
to my knowledge, no, because Colin's FRC director, not like logistics and like marketing.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, this is almost like reaching that separate silo of people who don't do much with programs and things like that. So, and that's not Chris Rake necessarily, because he is EVP of programs as well, but many of the other decision makers have nothing to do with programs at all in this program. So if you want to reach those people, may need to be other methods than just complaining up the program director food chain for that as well too.
Mm-hmm. I bet $20 that the people that are working on that, like, decide all this stuff, are not involved with a team or have been involved with a team, but have long since removed from being with a team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said,
I can't see like the people that I know at HQ that are with teams that would be making these decisions, because a lot of those teams I know for a fact would be suffering from what's going on right now. Mm-hmm. And there's no way that they would like happily let that slide.
I think, the one thing I always try to ask myself in especially when there's controversial decisions being made that people are complaining about or upset about is, obviously you try to understand the perspective that led to the decision that was made. But I also try to remind myself that at the end of the day, the whole objective here is to inspire, right? Like that's the whole thing, right? It's the I in First, and it's a big part of their website and all that stuff. So, I implore the decision makers, like Tyler said, to consider how inspirational it would be to have a hard-fought season that ends with excitement and positivity, only to be, snuffed out by the reality that you can't find flights in 48 hours or hotels in the amount of time or whatever it is. Don't let logistics be the reason that, you know, the inspiration for the young students on the team, you know, comes to an abrupt end.
1000% agree.
No, that's great. And we will close the topic right there. Thank you, Jeff. Before we go ahead and wrap up the show, let's bring Tyler back on to draw for that giveaway from Swift.
Yeah, this is an insane giveaway. And by the way, we got a lot more giveaways from Swift Robotics and Andy Mark that you saw too, and other suppliers, by the way, through the season. And I saw somebody ask about forecasts. We will have some more announcements in our shows, but yes, forecasts will be back. FRC Top 25 will be back. This show will be back as well too. We got a lot of great content. We are bringing back Funalysis on a much bigger scale. We'll be doing match analysis and breakdowns. Expect 3 to 4 of those per week. So a lot of great stuff coming out from Fun. And of course, behind the bumpers, we have an incredible amount of correspondents that'll be out in the field filming as well too. I'm sure I probably missed a content piece or two, but we get a lot of great stuff coming out. So with that said, if you do win, once again, please go to funroboxnetwork.com, click the giveaway winner link, and we'll get that. Swift, get in contact with you ASAP to get these made, because these are badass, guys. So the winner of this is going to be Timothy Quitzel. Sorry, however I pronounce it. Timothy Q. Congratulations to you. You are winning this fantastic giveaway from Swift Robotics. Thanks again to them for the awesome giveaway, and also thanks again to Andy Mark earlier and all of our suppliers who are providing giveaways throughout the entire season. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, everybody, and thanks again from our friends at Swift. 2 things I want to highlight. It first one, Ant Poison had a really good question in chat on how the PVC reef poles are performing differently than the steel ones. I would say in the experience that 33 has had, the PVC poles obviously are a lot more tolerant to bending. So if you're a team that is planning on dunking the coral on and removing it, or trying to line up with that, the PVCs have a lot more bend to them than the steel pipes do. So be sure if that affects your design to take a look into that. The other thing, Fun Premiere Night this Saturday. Be sure to check it out. Tyler, what is the start time again for that?
Yeah, you think I'd remember that one. So that is going to be Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and submissions are due on Thursday, the end of Thursday, which means when I wake up in the morning on Friday and start processing everything. So you can get links on Chief Delphi, on our Discord, all that fun stuff more. Thank you for bringing that up, Nick. I can't believe I forgot that.
No, absolutely. All right, well, thank you to Jeff for our guest for coming on. On behalf of our producer, Tyler Olds, my co-host, Connor, and all Fun correspondents, I'm Nick Jr., and thanks for watching. Good luck to all teams as we enter here next week into week 1. I'll be at First of Michigan Ferndale District event with the Killer Bees, and if you happen to see me, feel free to stop by and say hi. Also, big thanks to our moderators in chat as well. See you next time, same day, same time, where we take a look at what is going on with First Robotics on FRC Roundup. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Cut is a premier metal cutting service for first teams. No minimum order, options for same-day turnaround, guaranteed lead times, and instant online quotes. Cut is offering first teams 50% off any future order up to $200 when you scan the QR code or go to funroboticsnetwork.com/OSHCUT. Just upload a 3D model or flat pattern to get started. Andy Mark provides superior service with the reliability that teams expect. Check out their sport gearbox and ratchet sport options to their tried and true compliant wheels used by teams all over the world. From mechanical and electrical products to tools and hardware, head on over to andymark.com for your one-stop shop of high quality